Sometimes, the moments we expect to be the sweetest turn into the ones that shatter us the most. On their wedding anniversary, a pregnant wife catches her millionaire husband shopping with his mistress on a day meant to be filled with flowers, sweet memories, and tender love. Olivia stepped into a luxury boutique expecting to surprise her husband. Instead, her heart froze at the sight that greeted her: her millionaire husband, Lucas Bennett, arm in arm with another woman. Shock and betrayal washed over her in wave after wave, each more gut-wrenching than the last. Already pregnant, Olivia's emotions ran wild. Could this really be happening on their wedding anniversary of all days? She was supposed to be cherishing the moment. Their love story had begun so beautifully, but instead she found herself hurt, humiliated, and seething with unresolved anger. Olivia Bennett woke up that morning feeling different. At 4 months pregnant, her body had begun to show noticeable signs of the child growing inside her. She placed a gentle hand on her belly, feeling the faintest of flutters, a stirring of new life that elicited both excitement and trepidation. Morning light spilled into the bedroom, illuminating golden dust motes as they danced in the air. She brushed her long, dark hair aside and sat up in bed, gingerly stretching her limbs. Today marked 5 years since she had married Lucas Bennett, a man she had adored from the moment they met at a charity gala in Seattle. Lucas had been standing across the room that evening, dressed in a perfectly tailored navy suit, with his short brown hair brushed neatly back and an aura of quiet confidence that captured her attention. Over time, they discovered a shared love for animals, classical music, and community service. Olivia, an aspiring painter, fresh out of art school, believed she had stumbled upon the perfect man. After their lavish wedding, the couple settled into a luxurious home in Bellevue Heights. Lucas's fortunes had soared from shrewd investments in tech startups, and his net worth had grown exponentially within just a few years. Now he was the talk of social circles for his philanthropic efforts, often appearing at black-tie charity events. While Olivia had never been interested in money, she found it exhilarating to see him use his resources for good causes. That morning, Olivia expected to wake up to a bouquet of roses and a tender kiss. She yearned to snuggle against her husband's chest, to hear him speak softly to the child in her belly. But as she opened her eyes fully, Lucas was nowhere in sight. The space beside her was cold, a slight frown etching her face. It wasn't typical for him to wake up so early, let alone on their anniversary. She picked up her phone from the nightstand. There was a single text message from him. "Sorry, something came up at the office. We'll make it up to you tonight. Love you." A vague explanation. Disappointment throbbed in her chest. She brushed it aside, though. Over the past few months, Lucas's schedule had grown erratic. He sometimes worked late hours, left the house in the early mornings, or canceled dinner plans at the last minute. She knew business had been stressful. There were expansions to oversee, contracts to finalize, or so he claimed. She had tried time and again to be supportive, but a quiet sense of unease had begun to creep into her thoughts lately. Despite that pang of worry, Olivia reminded herself that Lucas loved her. She had faith in the bond they shared, faith that tonight he would show up at the restaurant. They had always celebrated their anniversaries with flowers in hand and that apologetic look in his eyes. He might even bring a surprise gift or whisk her off for a weekend getaway. He did love to catch her off guard with lavish gestures. Olivia carefully got out of bed and padded across the plush carpet. She took a warm shower, allowing the water to soothe her. Then she dressed in a simple yet elegant white sundress that accentuated her baby bump. If Lucas was busy, she told herself, then perhaps she could run some errands to get ready for the celebration. She thought of the special gift she had prepared, an oil painting she had poured her heart into for weeks now. It depicted a silhouette of a woman with a pregnant belly standing beneath a blossoming cherry tree. It was symbolic of renewal and the unwavering bond of family. She only hoped Lucas would find it beautiful and meaningful. The memory of her father, William Carter, flashed in her mind. He had once told her, "A stable family is worth more than all the wealth in the world." She felt a pang of sorrow. Her father had passed away shortly after she got married. She wished he could be here now, guiding her with his calm reassurance. Shaking off the melancholy, she put on a brave face and headed downstairs for breakfast. She was determined to make the day a positive one, no matter what. Little did she know her entire life was on the precipice of change, a moment away from the heartbreak and chaos that would unravel before evening fell. That morning, Olivia planned to drop by a local bakery to pick up Lucas's favorite pastry, a freshly baked chocolate croissant. On the drive there, she tried calling him, hoping to hear his voice. However, the call went straight to voicemail. A sense of disappointment mingled with worry. Maybe he was stuck in an important meeting. She pulled up to La Petite Douceur, the sweet aroma of bread and coffee wafting from inside. The bell above the door jingled cheerily as she entered, but Olivia's mind was elsewhere, cycling through images of Lucas's changing behavior. She could not ignore the subtle shift over the past few weeks. The guarded texts, the late-night phone calls he claimed were work emergencies. As she stood in line, she overheard two women discussing their relationships, one complaining about her husband's suspicious behavior. It struck a chord deep within Olivia. She paid for the pastries, forcing a polite smile at the cashier, and left. Outside, the winter sunshine was crisp. She sat in her car for a moment, her fingers drumming nervously on the steering wheel. Would Lucas hide something from me? She wondered, dismissing the thought. She tried to reassure herself. Lucas had never given her a real reason to doubt him. He was kind, generous, and always made sure she was cared for. The new tension had to be from the upcoming deal he was working on, right? Yet that nagging voice in her mind wouldn't quiet. She recalled a name that had come up in conversation recently, Bianca Langford. She was an elegant, striking woman from a wealthy family, and rumor had it that she worked closely with Lucas on one of his philanthropic boards. She was known in their social circle for her mesmerizing beauty and relentless ambition. Some tabloids hinted at her string of affairs with powerful men. When Bianca was around, the room crackled with a kind of seductive energy. Olivia had once noticed Bianca standing too close to Lucas at a fundraiser, her eyes gleaming with more than just professional admiration. Lucas had quickly introduced Bianca to Olivia as just a business colleague. He had politely but firmly escorted Olivia away to mingle with other guests. Something in Olivia's stomach twisted at the memory. She had laughed it off that night, thinking Lucas was merely shielding her from the woman's formidable presence. But was there more to it than that? Shaking her head to dispel the thought, she told herself to stay positive. After all, it was their anniversary. She was probably overthinking. Perhaps it was just maternal hormones intensifying her emotions. Still, a shadow crept into her heart, a low, trembling fear she couldn't shake off. The betrayal of trust, once imagined, gnawed at her stronger than she dared admit. She hated the insecurity curling inside her, hated how it made her question everything she once believed to be solid. Taking a deep breath, she started the engine and drove home. When she arrived, she found an unusual silence in the house, broken only by the faint hum of the heater. She put the bakery bag on the kitchen counter, poured herself a glass of water, and attempted to busy herself by tidying the living room and planning dinner. She wanted everything to be perfect by noon. Her unease grew stronger. Lucas still hadn't messaged her beyond that cryptic text. She texted him again. "Honey, are we still on for tonight? I'm worried about you. Please let me know you're okay." No response. At around 1 in the afternoon, Olivia's phone buzzed with an incoming call. The screen showed the name Jake Montgomery, Lucas's close friend and fellow entrepreneur. Jake was a brash, straightforward kind of man who always wore an easy grin. It was unusual for him to call her directly. "Jake, everything all right?" she asked, her heart thumping. He hesitated before speaking. "Olivia, hey, I'm not sure how to say this, but are you okay?" A chill ran down her spine. "I'm fine. Why do you ask?" Jake cleared his throat. "I don't want to stir up trouble, but I just left an investors meeting, and I saw Lucas leaving with a woman I didn't recognize. They seemed quite close. In fact, the rumor around the meeting was that Lucas has been seen taking her out a lot lately. He was saying something about a personal shopping spree." Olivia's mouth went dry. "He's with a woman right now?" "Yes," Jake confirmed, sounding uncomfortable. "Look, I could be wrong about what I saw, but I know how these circles can be. I wanted to make sure you knew. I'm not trying to blow up your marriage or anything, Olivia. I just don't want you blindsided. Her hand clutched the phone tightly. Thank you for letting me know. Her voice sounded foreign to her own ears, so calm, when inside, she felt a storm raging. Jake sighed. If you need anything, just say the word. You know I've got your back. I appreciate it, she whispered and ended the call. For a moment, Olivia stood in place, pressing a shaky hand against her abdomen. The baby shifted, as though sensing her distress. She inhaled deeply, her mind swirling with confusion. Lucas is out with another woman, the same day we're celebrating our anniversary. Could it really be true? She found herself picking up her phone once more, scrolling through her recent calls. She tried to ignore the fear churning in her stomach, focusing instead on the possibility that Jake was mistaken. But a deeper voice inside her whispered darker thoughts, that maybe the life she so carefully built was already crumbling without her even realizing it. The walls she leaned on suddenly felt fragile, and the future she had envisioned began to flicker like a dying candle. She still had the location of Lucas's office pinned in her GPS, along with the upscale district where many of their wealthy friends frequently shopped. Luxury boutiques, jewelry stores, and designer showrooms lined the streets of Seattle's famed shopping quarter. Olivia had always trusted Lucas, but the seeds of doubt had been planted. She needed the truth, no matter how painful. It took her half an hour to reach Seattle's lavish shopping district. The tall glass buildings shimmered in the winter sunlight, proudly sporting the names of high-end brands like Cartier, Gucci, and Louis Vuitton. People dressed in expensive coats and boots walked briskly, arms laden with glossy bags. Olivia parked her car near a modern fountain and stepped onto the sidewalk. Her breath came faster, her heart thundered, and she felt suddenly lightheaded. She pressed a hand to her abdomen, grounding herself with a reminder that she had to remain calm for the baby's sake. I have to do this. She wandered from store to store, scanning each interior through the large glass windows, searching for that familiar figure. Her reflection stared back at her, haunted by a fear she could no longer deny. The crowd seemed to thicken as she moved deeper into the shopping complex. What if I find him? She thought. Am I ready for what that might mean? Finally, as she approached a posh boutique known for high-end maternity wear, ironically enough, she spotted him, a flash of Lucas's signature navy blue wool coat and neatly styled brown hair. He was standing near a display of diamond-encrusted watches. She almost sighed in relief, thinking perhaps he was buying her an extravagant anniversary gift. But then she saw the woman at his side, standing tall with cascading blonde waves, Bianca Langford. Just as Olivia feared, the woman was dressed in a figure-hugging crimson dress under a luxurious black fur coat. Her lips curved in a flirtatious smile as she leaned in close to Lucas. Their bodies stood inches apart, an intimacy that was unmistakable. Olivia felt her stomach drop. She watched, paralyzed, as Bianca reached out to affectionately straighten the lapel of Lucas's coat. In the reflection of the store's glass, Olivia could see Lucas's face, the slight smile that broke across his features, an expression she had long believed was hers alone. And then came the final stab to her heart. Lucas leaned in to whisper something in Bianca's ear, making her giggle and lightly brush her palm across his cheek. Olivia could no longer rationalize it away. This wasn't business. This was personal betrayal. The word flashed in her mind like a neon sign, summoning strength she didn't know she had. Olivia stepped inside the boutique, each click of her heels on the marble floor amplified in her ears. Bianca noticed her first, and for just a fraction of a second, shock distorted her perfectly made-up face. Then Lucas turned, and his eyes went wide in horror. "Olivia," he gasped, taking a small step back from Bianca, as if physical distance could undo the obvious. Tears burned behind Olivia's eyes, but she refused to let them fall. With every fiber of her being, she wanted to maintain composure. This was not the place to make a scene, or so she told herself. "So this is why you couldn't be home this morning?" she asked, her voice trembling despite her best efforts. Bianca recovered her poise with impressive speed. She smoothed her hair, tossed a haughty glance Olivia's way, and said in a voice dripping with insincerity, "I'm sorry if we gave you the wrong impression, Olivia. We're just finalizing some board contributions for an upcoming charity. Right, Lucas?" Lucas's face paled. "Yes, we were just Don't, Olivia hissed, her calm facade cracking. She noticed several onlookers, including the store clerks, gawking at them. She swallowed, tasting the metallic tang of heartbreak in her mouth. I trusted you, Lucas, and this is what I find, on our anniversary, she said, her voice breaking slightly. The clerk standing behind the glass counter cleared his throat uncomfortably. Bianca shot him a dangerous look, silently urging him to mind his own business. Please, Lucas said, lowering his voice, let's go somewhere private to talk. Olivia glared at him, her mind swirling with the images she had just seen. The final blow came when she noticed a small bag at Bianca's elbow, a bag from Cartier. He had bought something expensive for her. The pain was almost unbearable. She turned and marched out of the boutique, tears welling in her eyes. Lucas rushed after her, leaving Bianca behind. As soon as he caught up with Olivia on the sidewalk, he grabbed her arm gently but firmly. Let me explain, he pleaded. I wasn't expecting you to come here. It's not what it looks like. She whirled around, eyes brimming with both fury and heartbreak. It's exactly what it looks like, Lucas. Don't lie to me, not today, not any day. Behind them, Bianca had stepped out of the boutique as well, but hung back, arms folded over her chest, seemingly content to let Lucas handle the fallout. Passers-by slowed their steps, tempted by the drama unfolding on the bustling street corner. Tension crackled in the air. Olivia noticed how Lucas's fingers trembled slightly against her sleeve. Then, with an almost pathetic gesture, he moved his hand, searching for hers. An attempt to mend the fracture. She pulled away, pressed a palm to her belly and spat. Don't touch me. Our child doesn't need this. I don't need this. Olivia, please, Lucas began, his voice quavering. She cut him off. I'm going home. If you have any shred of decency left, you'll come home and explain every single bit of this, and you'd better have the truth for once. Before he could respond, Olivia turned on her heel and fled, forcing herself not to break into a run. Inside, she was falling apart, her entire future crumbling. She could practically feel Lucas watching her, a mix of shock and guilt plastered across his face. Her only consolation was that in that moment she still had enough strength left to keep her tears at bay, at least until she was safe in her car, where no one could witness her heart shattering. By the time Olivia returned home, her hands were shaking so violently she could barely fit the key into the door. She wrenched it open, stumbled inside, and sagged against the wall, breathing heavily. Her phone chimed, and she saw a text from Lucas. I'm sorry, I'm on my way. Please, Olivia. Let's talk. She dropped her phone onto the nearest table, her emotions churning like a tempest. She was furious, she was devastated, and worst of all, she felt stupid for not having recognized the signs sooner. A wave of nausea passed through her, and she hurried to the bathroom, pressing her forehead against the cool sink edge. Minutes later, her phone chimed again. Another text from Lucas, followed by several missed calls. She ignored them all, too lost in the swirl of her own anger and confusion. Had she done something wrong? Had she neglected him? She thought back to times when he had tried to be affectionate, only for her to be exhausted from pregnancy symptoms. But no, she admonished herself. This was on him, not her. Desperate for answers, she searched her memory for every suspicious detail she had overlooked. Lucas had been more protective of his phone lately, often stepping away to take calls in hushed tones. There were unexplained charges on his credit card bills, expensive dinners at upscale restaurants where they had never dined together. And then there was the shift in his behavior, the distance, the late nights, the lies. This must have been going on for a while. A strangled sob escaped her lips. All those times she had believed Lucas's explanations about work. He was probably out with Bianca. She conjured images of Bianca Langford, a socialite known for her ability to seduce. How many wives had she left broken in her wake? The tabloids had whispered rumors for years, and now it seemed Olivia was her latest victim. The front door opened and Lucas rushed in. His eyes found Olivia immediately. She stood in the foyer, arms wrapped around her middle as if protecting her unborn child from the heartbreak. Their gazes locked, and for a moment the tension was suffocating. Olivia, Lucas began softly. She saw how long his brow furrowed. It's complicated. How long? She repeated, her voice laced with pain. Lucas ran a hand through his hair, visibly torn. A couple of months, he admitted. A tear slid down Olivia's cheek. A couple of months. So while she had been busy dealing with morning sickness and preparing for motherhood, he had found comfort in Bianca's arms. The thought was nauseating. "Why?" she whispered, the single word carrying a world of hurt. He hesitated, as though the weight of his guilt threatened to crush him. "It started off as a work thing," he said. "Bianca was helping broker an investment deal for the charity. We were traveling together, going to events. She was there when you were busy or feeling unwell. I was feeling the pressure of the expansions, and she gave me an escape." The explanation felt like a physical blow. Olivia wondered if she was the reason. Did I push him away by focusing too much on the baby? Did he think my pregnancy made me boring or less desirable? A twinge of anger knifed through her, directed at both him and herself. "That's your excuse?" she spat. "Stress? Boredom? You promised me forever, Lucas. Did our vows mean nothing to you?" His face fell. "I never meant to hurt you. I swear it. I got in too deep and I couldn't find a way out." She stared at him, incredulous. "You're a grown man. You could have told me you were struggling. You could have asked for help, for time, or even for a break. But you chose her." Her voice cracked on the last word. Lucas stepped closer, arms extended as if to console her, but she backed away. "I'm sorry," he said. "I ended it with her weeks ago. I only met her today because she asked for a final favor. She wanted me to help her pick a gift for a foreign investor. I was trying to keep things civil so it wouldn't destroy our business relationships." "Don't lie to me," Olivia cried, tears streaming freely now. "I saw you whispering to her, leaning in like you were. She couldn't continue. The memory was too raw. "It's over," Lucas insisted, his voice trembling. "I want to make this right." Olivia felt her heart pound. Could she ever trust him again? The ring on her finger felt suddenly heavier than a boulder. She thought about her unborn child, about the life they had planned, a perfect future in a sprawling estate with family vacations and unconditional love. In that moment, she didn't know which hurt more, the betrayal itself or the dreams that now felt shattered. She could hardly bear to look at Lucas, a man she had once adored so wholly that the very sight of him now made her physically ill. "Get out," she whispered. Lucas's eyes widened. "Olivia, wait. Please, let's talk this through." She shook her head, tears dripping off her chin. "I need time. Go, please." He swallowed hard, his face etched with sorrow. Then with a final pleading glance, Lucas walked out the door. The moment he was gone, Olivia sank to the floor, sobbing. She remembered her father's words about the sanctity of family. She remembered how Lucas had once been the embodiment of everything she had ever wanted. "He betrayed me." The words echoed in her mind, fueling her heartbreak. Still trembling, she cradled her belly, whispering to her baby, "I'm so sorry. You deserve better than this." The night was a blur of tears, confusion, and anger. Olivia didn't sleep. Instead, she paced the floor of the living room, replaying every conversation she'd had with Lucas over the last few months. She texted her mother, Margaret Carter, who lived in another state, telling her that she needed someone to talk to. Margaret, sensing her daughter's distress, arranged to fly in the next morning. Olivia was half asleep on the couch when she heard the doorbell ring just after 9 in the morning. She rushed to the door, opening it to find her mother's concerned gaze. Instantly, the fortress of composure she'd tried to maintain crumbled, and she burst into tears. Margaret stepped inside, wrapping her arms around her daughter's trembling form. An hour later, they sat in the sunlit kitchen, mugs of hot tea cooling on the table. Olivia recounted the entire story, her throat tight. Margaret listened intently, occasionally pressing a tissue into Olivia's hand or rubbing her back reassuringly. "Oh, my sweet girl," Margaret finally said, her eyes glistening with empathy. "I know you love him, but you have to take care of yourself and this baby first. If he's truly remorseful and willing to fix things, you need to see it in his actions, not just words." Olivia nodded, sniffling. "He says it's over, but how can I believe him after seeing them together like that?" The memory was seared into her mind. Margaret pursed her lips thoughtfully. "Men sometimes do stupid things when they feel pressured. That doesn't make it right, far from it, but you need to figure out whether you can ever trust him again, and trust is something you build over time. It's not immediate." A heavy silence hung between them, broken only by the distant hum of the refrigerator. Finally, Margaret reached across the table and took Olivia's hand in hers. "I'll support you. No matter what you decide, honey, I can stay here for as long as you need me. Olivia exhaled slowly, tears welling again. Thank you, Mom. Later that day, Margaret helped Olivia pack a small suitcase. Olivia needed a break from the house that now felt tainted by betrayal. The two women decided to stay at a nearby hotel, a cozy boutique inn. If Lucas wanted to see her, he would have to demonstrate genuine remorse and real change, not just empty apologies. Before leaving the house, Olivia sent Lucas a text, letting him know she would be gone for a few days and that they needed space. She wanted him to understand the gravity of what he had done, that a flimsy sorry would never heal her shattered heart. The next 3 days were a blur of emotional anguish. Olivia struggled to eat, her appetite lost to the swirling chaos in her mind. Margaret insisted she drink plenty of water and reminded her that the baby needed nutrients, coaxing her to sip on soups and nibble on crackers. Each night, sleep eluded her, and she found herself waking up with puffy eyes and a throbbing headache. Lucas called incessantly, leaving voicemails that ranged from desperate apologies to promises of cutting all ties with Bianca. Olivia ignored most of them, though she would sometimes listen late at night, tears slipping down her cheeks as she heard the depth of his regret. But regret was not always enough to fix what was broken. There were nights she curled into herself beneath the unfamiliar sheets of the hotel bed, clutching a pillow against her chest, wishing she could quiet the relentless ache of uncertainty. Even as anger burned within her, a deeper sadness gnawed at her, the unbearable thought that maybe she hadn't been enough to keep his heart anchored. On the 4th morning, Olivia's phone buzzed with an unknown number. At first, she hesitated, but her curiosity got the better of her. She answered, only to find the last person she expected on the other end of the line, Bianca Langford. "Olivia," the woman said, her tone oddly subdued. "I realize this may come as a shock, but I needed to speak with you." Olivia's stomach churned. "How did you get this number?" "I have my ways," Bianca replied in a clipped tone. "I think we should meet. There are things you deserve to know, about Lucas, about me, about everything." For a moment, Olivia considered hanging up, but something in Bianca's voice gave her pause. It wasn't the seductive purr she had expected. It sounded urgent, serious. Against her better judgment, Olivia agreed to meet at a cafe near the hotel. When Olivia told Margaret about the meeting, her mother warned her to be cautious. "You don't owe that woman anything," Margaret said. "If she's just trying to manipulate you, walk away." Still, Olivia felt she needed answers. She wanted to know what had truly transpired between Lucas and Bianca, and perhaps more importantly, why. The cafe was quiet, with soft jazz music playing overhead. Olivia arrived first, taking a seat in the corner where she could observe the entrance. Her heart was pounding, adrenaline surging. She was about to meet the woman who had intruded upon her marriage, the one who had captured Lucas's attention at his weakest and maybe even stolen his heart. Just before noon, Bianca swept into the cafe. She wore a tailored black trench coat belted at the waist, stiletto boots clicking across the floor, and an air of icy confidence. As she approached Olivia's table, she removed her sunglasses, revealing piercing blue eyes that were devoid of their usual self-assured glint. Olivia sat up straighter, summoning every ounce of composure she had. "You wanted to talk?" Olivia asked coolly. Bianca nodded, sliding into the seat across from her. She set her purse carefully on the table and folded her hands in her lap. "I want to apologize for what happened," she began, her voice steady. "I realize how painful this must be for you, and I take responsibility for my part." Olivia inhaled sharply. This wasn't what she expected, no smugness, no condescension. Still, she refused to let her guard down. "Is that all you have to say? Sorry for wrecking my marriage?" she asked, bitterness dripping from her tone. Bianca's expression flickered. "I understand your anger, and you have every right to feel that way." She paused, looking genuinely contrite. "But I also need you to know that I'm not a monster who delights in destroying relationships." Olivia's eyebrows shot up skeptically, but she let Bianca continue. "Lucas made the first move," Bianca said. "He reached out to me after a late-night business dinner. At first, it was purely professional, but when I saw how troubled he was, I offered a listening ear. One thing led to another." Her voice softened. "He missed you, Olivia." Olivia swallowed hard, feeling a fresh sting in her chest. That simple statement unraveled something inside her, a quiet, gnawing fear she had tried so hard to suppress. Had she been so consumed by the pregnancy, by her exhaustion and endless preparations, that she had somehow become invisible to him? Had her swollen ankles, her early nights spent curled up with prenatal books, made her less of the vibrant woman he once adored? Guilt seeped in like a slow, unwelcome tide, mingling with her anger. She wrapped her arms protectively around her belly, silently willing herself not to crumble. Was it my fault too? The terrible thought whispered. She pushed it away as quickly as it came, but its shadow lingered, casting a deeper ache across her already bruised heart. He talked about you all the time, the radiant, talented wife who was going to give him a child, but he felt overshadowed by the demands of fatherhood looming on the horizon. Olivia felt tears stinging her eyes. She forced them back. "Why are you telling me this?" she asked. "Because Lucas regrets it deeply," Bianca replied, her gaze unwavering. "He's torn up about what he did. I ended it 2 weeks ago, but he insisted we stay on civil terms for the sake of charity functions. That day in the boutique, I was pushing my luck, trying to see if any spark remained, if we could salvage something, business or otherwise. But clearly, after seeing your reaction, he realized there's no going back to what we had." Olivia swallowed a lump in her throat. The idea that Lucas might have felt overshadowed, neglected even, gnawed at her. She remembered her father's words about open communication. Did I fail to provide that? A swirl of guilt mixed with anger. "So you're telling me he was lonely, so you swooped in?" Olivia said sharply. Bianca shrugged faintly. "It's not that simple. But I won't dodge the blame. Yes, I was lonely too. Lucas is charming, generous, and we got swept up in the moment. I'm sorry." Olivia stared at the woman, noticing the wariness in her eyes. "Why are you telling me this now, though? What do you get out of this?" Bianca sighed, glancing at her manicured nails before meeting Olivia's gaze. "I've done a lot of awful things in my life, if I'm being honest, but I don't want to be the reason a child grows up without a family. I needed you to know that Lucas isn't just making excuses. He genuinely wants to fix this. Whether you take him back is your decision, of course," she added, "but from one woman to another, I'm urging you not to condemn your marriage based solely on a mistake, even a catastrophic one." A tear slipped down Olivia's cheek, and she quickly wiped it away. She searched Bianca's face for any sign of deceit, but all she found was a broken woman who had once found fleeting comfort in someone else's husband. "I don't know if I can ever trust him again," Olivia whispered, her voice cracking. Bianca leaned forward, her tone uncharacteristically gentle. "Trust can be rebuilt. If you love him enough, and if he's willing to earn back your trust every day, then you might find a way." She exhaled. "That's all I wanted to say." Olivia sat there stunned. She felt exhaustion weigh on her shoulders, a weariness of the heart that overshadowed her anger. She tried to summon the hatred she thought she would feel toward Bianca, but found only pity, perhaps for both of them. Bianca rose to leave, offering a final soft-spoken apology. Olivia watched her walk away, the click of her heels echoing against the polished floor. The weight of the meeting settled over her like a heavy cloak, bringing no immediate clarity, only a murky understanding that there was more to Lucas's betrayal than she had realized. For a long moment, Olivia remained seated, tracing the rim of her untouched coffee cup with trembling fingers. Part of her wanted to run, flee back into the safety of anger and heartbreak, but another part, quieter yet insistent, whispered of possibilities. Possibilities of healing, of rebuilding, even if every step forward would mean risking her heart again. She wasn't sure she was brave enough, but maybe, for the sake of her child, she had to be. For the first time in days, Olivia considered the possibility of letting Lucas explain. Is there still a path forward? She wondered. That afternoon, Olivia returned to the hotel suite she shared with her mother. Her mind spun from the conversation with Bianca. Margaret looked up expectantly when Olivia walked in. She had apparently been tidying the room, trying to keep her hands busy while her daughter was gone. "How was it?" Margaret asked gently. Olivia hesitated, removing her coat and scarf before replying. "It was enlightening, I guess. Bianca claimed Lucas regrets everything and wants to fix it." Margaret's expression tightened. "Do you believe her?" "I think she was being honest," Olivia admitted. "She said he felt overshadowed by fatherhood, that he was overwhelmed and lonely. I don't know. She could be manipulating me, but something about her demeanor seemed sincere. Margaret's eyes were filled with concern. And how do you feel? Olivia pressed a hand to her belly, where the baby had just given a gentle kick. Confused, betrayed, but also part of me wants to see if our marriage can be saved. At that, Margaret took her hand, giving it a reassuring squeeze. Then you should talk to Lucas, figure out what you both want. And remember, sweetheart, trust is fragile. If you decide to work things out, he has a lot of rebuilding to do. Yeah, Olivia murmured, letting out a tremulous sigh. That evening, after much deliberation, she finally texted Lucas, telling him she was ready to meet and discuss what came next. His response was immediate, brimming with relief and a willingness to meet anywhere, anytime. They agreed on a neutral location. Her mother's friend's house in Bellevue, a quiet home Margaret was house-sitting while her friend traveled. Olivia felt it was safer to meet outside their own home, where the memories and sense of betrayal were still too raw. Lucas arrived the next day, looking drawn and weary. He wore a simple coat, his hair disheveled, as if he hadn't slept. They sat in the living room, the silence thick with tension. Margaret gave them space, retreating to the kitchen. I'm sorry, Lucas began, his voice trembling. I've said it 100 times in voicemails, but I need to say it to your face. I was wrong, Olivia. I messed up. The best thing that ever happened to me. Olivia's throat tightened, tears threatening to fall. Why didn't you come to me when you felt overwhelmed? Why her? She asked, voice barely above a whisper. He swallowed hard, running a hand through his hair. Because I was a coward. I saw how excited you were about the baby, and I didn't want to burden you with my insecurities. And Bianca? She was there, traveling with me for work, always available. Before I knew it, I had crossed a line. The honesty stung almost as much as the betrayal. You had a choice, Lucas, Olivia whispered. I was always here. I would have listened. Lucas's gaze dropped to the floor. I know, and I hate myself for not talking to you. If I could take it all back, I would. But I can't. All I can do is ask you, beg you, to consider giving me a chance to prove I'm still the man you fell in love with. A swirl of conflicting emotions tore through her. She remembered the early days of their love, their laughter, their shared dreams, the nights they stayed up talking about the future. She also remembered that horrifying moment in the boutique, the shock of seeing him with Bianca. Finally she spoke, her voice thick with tears. I can't guarantee things will ever be the same. Trust, it doesn't magically repair itself overnight, but I'm willing to see if we can mend what's left for the sake of our child and for us. But this is your last chance. Relief washed over Lucas's features, followed by a solemn nod. I understand. I'll do anything. Therapy, counseling, moving to a new house, whatever you need. Olivia managed a tiny nod, her eyes brimming with tears. We'll take it one day at a time. Just then, Margaret walked in, offering a tentative smile. She pulled them both into a brief, if awkward hug, telling them she was proud of them for at least trying. Amid the bittersweet moment, Olivia felt a flicker of hope. The road ahead would be long and fraught with challenges, but perhaps there was a sliver of a chance that they could come out stronger. The next few weeks were a roller coaster. Olivia and Lucas moved back into their shared home, but at her insistence, they slept in separate rooms. She also arranged for them to begin couples counseling. Their therapist, Dr. Rosalind Donovan, was a calm yet firm presence, guiding them through painful questions about trust, infidelity, and communication. There were days when Olivia felt she couldn't face Lucas without reliving his betrayal. She would find herself snapping at him for tiny things, like forgetting to replace the toilet paper roll, or dissolving into tears at the simplest reminders of happier times. Lucas, for his part, walked on eggshells, anxious to prove he was still worthy of her love. He spent hours reorganizing his schedule to ensure he was home more often, relinquished some business trips, and opened up his phone to her without hesitation. Yet it wasn't enough to simply be transparent. The emotional chasm between them couldn't be bridged by gestures alone. Some sessions with Dr. Donovan ended in heated arguments and tears, while others ended in cautious optimism. In one session, Dr. Donovan asked them to share a memory of when they felt most connected. Olivia recalled an early morning years ago, just after their honeymoon, when they decided on a whim to drive to the beach. They chased each other in the surf, laughing, free from any responsibilities. Lucas remembered the first time Olivia showed him her artwork, her paintings brimming with color and life, and how amazed he felt to have earned the love of such a talented soul. "You see," Dr. Donovan said, her voice gentle, "that connection you felt back then doesn't disappear. It just gets buried under hurt, resentment, and life stresses. If you want to save your marriage, you must each be willing to dig it out and nurture it again." Slowly, they tried. Lucas began leaving sticky notes around the house with short, heartfelt messages. "You're my sunrise in the morning," or "Your art ignites my world." Olivia gradually let down her walls enough to respond with small tokens of affection, like bringing him a cup of tea after a long day. Each step felt like a leap of faith, terrifying yet vital. Margaret eventually returned to her own home after ensuring her daughter was in a stable place. While her departure left Olivia feeling more vulnerable, it also forced her to rely on Lucas if she was to have any emotional support at all. At times she hated how reliant she felt. "Am I weak for letting him back in?" she questioned herself. But Dr. Donovan reminded her that choosing to try again requires immense strength, not weakness. Meanwhile, Bianca Langford faded from the public eye for a bit, possibly to avoid the scandal that might tarnish her reputation. Her father, Marshall Langford, a well-known industrialist, likely intervened to keep things quiet. Olivia tried not to dwell on Bianca's existence, focusing instead on her own healing. At 5 months pregnant, Olivia could feel the baby kick more frequently, a constant reminder that life was moving forward, whether she was ready or not. Lucas would place his hand on her belly, awe and gratitude lighting his face. In those moments, Olivia's anger would briefly recede, replaced by a cautious hope for the future. The real test came when Lucas received an invitation to a high-profile charity gala, one where Bianca would be present. The event was mandatory for major donors like Lucas. But Olivia wasn't sure she was ready to face the gossip, the judgmental stares, or even the possibility of seeing Bianca again. "I'll skip it if you want," Lucas offered. "We can donate the money, but we don't have to attend." But Dr. Donovan advised otherwise. "If you want to move forward, you both have to confront the reality of your circle of friends. You can't hide from society events forever. This is your opportunity to show unity, if that's what you truly want." After much deliberation, Olivia agreed to go. On the night of the gala, she wore a flowing navy gown that accentuated her growing bump, a statement of pride rather than shame. Lucas stood beside her in a tailored tuxedo, his arm protectively at her waist. They walked into the grand ballroom, marble floors and crystal chandeliers, bracing themselves for the whispers. Sure enough, heads turned and people began murmuring. Olivia could almost feel their eyes boring into her. She lifted her chin, refusing to wilt under the scrutiny. They navigated the crowd, politely exchanging greetings, making small talk with acquaintances who tried hard not to seem too curious about the recent drama. Then, across the room, Olivia spotted Bianca Langford in a pale gold gown surrounded by a group of affluent guests. Their eyes met, and Olivia felt her heart clench. She prepared herself for the worst. But, to her surprise, Bianca acknowledged her with a polite nod and turned away. No theatrical confrontation, no smug look, just a brief, subdued acknowledgement. Lucas squeezed Olivia's hand, silently offering support. The remainder of the evening passed without incident. Despite the tension, Olivia felt a growing sense of confidence. She was choosing to stand by Lucas, and he was unwavering in showing the world that she was the woman he loved. Later that night, as they left the gala, Olivia breathed a sigh of relief. Lucas escorted her to the car, and before she climbed in, she turned to him. "Thank you," she said softly, "for respecting my pace, for letting me decide if I could handle this." Lucas brushed a lock of hair away from her face, his gaze earnest. "I'm grateful you even gave me a chance." In the quiet confines of the car, they held hands. It was a small, tentative step, but it felt like a victory. Proof that maybe their love hadn't died, only stumbled. Weeks turned into months. Olivia and Lucas's relationship continued its arduous climb out of the pit of betrayal. Therapy sessions became less tearful, shifting focus toward the excitement of impending parenthood. Olivia resumed her painting with renewed vigor, sometimes asking Lucas to join her in the studio to watch. One afternoon, Lucas surprised her with an impromptu baby shower, inviting only their closest friends and family members, people who genuinely cared about them. Amid pastel decorations and tiny baby clothes, Olivia felt something blossom in her chest, a fragile sense of peace. Jake Montgomery pulled her aside at one point, apologizing for how he'd alerted her about Lucas's affair. "I'm sorry if I was too blunt," he admitted. "I just couldn't stand the thought of you not knowing." Olivia hugged him, tears of gratitude in her eyes. "You did the right thing. Thank you." As the baby shower wound down, Olivia caught sight of Lucas, who was talking to her mother and smiling in that way that used to make her heart flutter. She realized with a start that her heart fluttered still. "Maybe I do love him enough to see this through," she thought. Finally, the day of their anniversary arrived once again, this time overshadowed by the pain of the past year. But Lucas had a plan. He took Olivia to the Bellevue beach, where they had once frolicked in the waves. The sun was setting, painting the horizon with streaks of pink and orange. They walked hand in hand, the cool ocean breeze ruffling their hair. They paused at the water's edge, letting the tide lap at their feet. Lucas turned to her, eyes glistening. "Olivia," he said, "we've been through the darkest time in our marriage. I can't erase what I did, but I'm here now, and I always will be. Will you let me renew my vows to you?" She felt tears forming. "Yes," she whispered. In that golden twilight, Lucas recited the vows he had once broken, promising anew to be faithful, to communicate, and to cherish her. Olivia recited her own vows, acknowledging that trust must be earned and that she was ready to let him earn it every day. Then they embraced, the rhythmic crash of waves a witness to their raw and hopeful moment. Not long after, Olivia went into labor. Lucas raced her to the hospital, panic and exhilaration written across his face. The hours were intense, filled with the screams and tears of childbirth, but Lucas never left her side. Finally, in the early hours of a cool spring morning, they welcomed a baby girl. They named her Serena, a name symbolizing tranquility, a hope for peace after the storms they had weathered. Olivia wept as she held her daughter for the first time, Lucas's arms wrapped around them both. In that hospital room, the pain of the past year didn't vanish, but it shrank in comparison to the miracle of new life. They were a family, flawed, scarred, but determined to move forward. Over time, the scandal of Lucas's affair died down in their social circles, replaced by new gossip and intrigue. Olivia occasionally encountered Bianca at charitable functions. Their interactions remained civil, though never friendly. Life moved on, and the wounds in Olivia's heart gradually healed into a scar, a reminder of how quickly even the strongest love could fracture. But in the quiet mornings, when the sun's first rays gilded the nursery and Serena cooed in her crib, Olivia would see Lucas gazing at them both with humility and adoration. She would feel a renewed sense of gratitude that she had found the courage not to give up on the man she loved. He had betrayed her, yes, but she had chosen to let him prove his regret day by day until they found a new kind of strength. Their marriage was no longer the naive fairy tale of youth. It was something more complicated, more painfully earned, but perhaps more resilient for it. And as Olivia kissed her daughter's forehead, she believed, despite everything, that love, nurtured through forgiveness and determination, could indeed weather any storm. Thank you for joining us on this intense journey of love, betrayal, and ultimate redemption. On their wedding anniversary, a pregnant wife catches her millionaire husband shopping with his mistress, is a reminder that trust, once broken, is painstaking to rebuild, but not impossible. Olivia and Lucas's story shows how communication, genuine remorse, and the willingness to fight for each other can transform even the worst mistakes into a pathway toward deeper understanding. If you found yourself rooting for these characters, shedding a tear for their heartbreak, or celebrating their hard-earned second chance, we invite you to show your support. Like this video, share it with friends who love a good drama, and subscribe to our channel for more gripping, real-life fiction stories. Your engagement helps us continue creating the heartfelt tales you love. Remember, in the face of adversity, choose love, choose hope, and always fight for what truly matters.